Evening, Source Nation, and welcome to SRN Live Television. I am your host, Author Kimberly McLemore, and thank you for tuning in tonight to the show, The Author's Corner. Tonight we have another amazing show for you, but before I go any further, you know I have to thank our sponsors, because without the sponsors, the show would not be possible, right? So we have Zulina, Health, Wellness, and Fitness, Meet My Types Matchmaking, Renovations, and New Covenant of Praise Worship Center. So now let me just take a couple of minutes and tell you a little bit about myself and the purpose of the show. I am author of How to Be a Success by Just Being You, and memoir, Deception of the Heart, A Real Look into Domestic Violence. And I'm also the CEO and founder of the Women's Small Business Initiative, LLC, the host of the podcast, Your Resource for Success, which is on iHeartRadio and Spotify, and the founder of Author Kimberly McLemore, LLC. And I'm also the host of this new show, radio TV show called The Author's Corner. So let me just tell you a little bit why I decided to do this platform. I really wanted this platform because we have a lot of new and existing authors out there that need something different ways to promote their book, right? So this platform is available for you to talk about your events, of course, talk a little bit about yourself, and of course, the big piece of it is we want to know where we can find the book at, right? So now, let me tell you a little bit about our special guest, Author Anita Washington. Author Anita Washington is the author of the book called Family is Not Everything: How to Minimize Their Mess, Maximize Your Happiness, and Enjoy Emotional Baggage Breakthroughs. She also is the host of the TV show That Anita Live and the Emotional Happiness Podcast, which provides a platform for women to learn, laugh, and more importantly, heal emotionally by learning from the challenges and successes of others. Also, she is a former school and community agency counselor and creator of the 7-Step Method. Anita has helped guide people from the ages of 11 to 50 through their own life issues, personal transformations, and professional endeavors. So without further ado, Source Nation, please help me welcome my special guest, Anita Washington. Hey, Anita.
You are working it over there, honey. You are working it. So shows, the 2 books.
Hey, and got a 3rd one coming out soon. Oh, yeah, I'm not, look, this ain't about me tonight, so we're going to talk about you. Wow, so welcome.
Thank you.
So excited to have you on. I've had the opportunity and the blessings to be on your amazing TV show. So I'm just excited that you're here and you have a new book. But before we dive into that, why don't you tell the listeners just a little bit about yourself?
Well, like you said in the bio, formerly a school and community agency counselor. From there, I kind of burnt out and transitioned into doing contracts. Mm-hmm. I've done contracts for a number of years, but I've always been connected to the counseling community, whether it was through friends that I had that were former coworkers, or just people that were always asking me, you know, what would Nita do, or what do you think about this? When I ask why, it's because they see me as a happy person that is always that one person that goes after what they want.
Okay. that to me seems that would be you, because, you know, when I met you, when we actually met at another opportunity that we had, you know,
yes,
a live show, you know, it was funny though, because you were kind of sitting back and just quiet. And then all of a sudden it was like, I want you to be on my show. I'm like, okay. Yeah, a whole different side person that was sitting back there being all quiet.
Because the counselor, you know, the introvert in me sits back and takes everything in. You know, I don't miss anything.
I noticed that. All of us extroverts were just, you know, running our mouths, and then, you know, you were just quietly sitting there, doing your thing, and not realizing, you know, that you had this amazing show that you do.
Thank you.
I know we're not really here just to talk about this, but, you know, I have to tell the world about it because it's a great opportunity for others who, you know, can reach out to you, and then they can possibly have the opportunity to be on your platform, because your platform is phenomenal. I want y'all to know when I say live TV, I was on a real TV station. I was like, oh my God, I'm on Channel 10. I was like, oh, this is real. I mean, the lights, you know, I was sweating. I mean, it was crazy.
Because with everything that is virtual these days, when my guests walk into a real TV studio, they kind of say, Nate, I wasn't expecting this. Like they talk about people being in their living rooms or everything being online. And I said, well, sometimes it's good to stay attached to the traditional because there's some exposure and some conditioning that's done there. So,
Exactly.
like you're talking about it. Now, that experience evidently was a great one for you. So I'm glad to have been a part of that.
It was. I mean, it definitely made me nervous. And all I kept thinking was like, oh my gosh, how to look through this camera? How to look through this camera? And the camera's like right there. I'm like, okay.
You looked good, girl. You looked good.
Well, you know, I did have my money green on that day. So, you know. Anyway, so now that after we've been crazy, right? So tell me a little bit. Okay, so are you originally from this area?
No, I'm not from the DMV. I'm originally from South Carolina.
Okay. And so how did you make your way? You know, can you give me a quick overview of how you got here? And of course, we know that you were into the counseling and so forth. Yes. And then we'll talk a little bit about how you got into the business that you are doing.
Well, I've lived all up and down the East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
And I came to the DMV area really through contacts in grad school.
Okay.
When I was at Virginia State University, the DMV used to bring us back to the DMV to party.
That was when DMV was real, right?
And I just, through those experiences, I just kind of fell in love with the area. And even though once I graduated from grad school, I moved out to the Smokies, lived in Tennessee for a while, moved around, there was always that DC, you know, come back to DC, live in DC. DC is a great area.
Right.
I quit my job, moved, and here I am, 17, 18 years later.
Wow. Nothing but history after that. And a great history.
I tried to clean it up at first, but you know, let's just go and tell the truth and shame the devil.
Look, we don't edit anything in this. It is raw and it is real. That's what I tell people. You come to my show and you do a lot of editing, okay? So whatever you say, everybody is listening right now. So it's okay, you know, but that's the beauty of having these platforms is that, you know, I want people to realize how human and how real we really are. Because a lot of times all they ever see is the shell of us and all they think about is, ooh, you know, she's an author, ooh, she's got a business, you know, so what we go through every day is hard work. And,
yes.
You know, this is the reason why we're here to tell our stories. And so now talk to me about, and to the listeners, of course, what made you decide to get up and walk off your job?
Like I said, I became burnt out.
Mm-hmm.
In that particular job, I had been counseling 16 to 25.
Okay.
And the population every day began to become more and more juveniles.
Mm.
It was a cycle, and it's that cycle that burned me out because we would have the juveniles in a residential facility, and as long as we had them, okay, in that protected environment,
mm-hmm.
they were model citizens. Within months of going back into their home environments, they went back into that old behavior.
Exactly.
And it just began to feel like the position was worthless. Like I was just a part of a Ferris wheel and not really making an impact.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's got to be discerning, you know, to think that, you know, you're putting in all this effort and then you realize that what you're doing there, you can't change them because that environment that they're in is
right.
not the same. So of course they're going to learn the same bad behaviors. That's with anything in life, you know. You like they say, I guess there's those sayings where you can take them out of the ghetto, but the ghetto is still in them. And right. You know, no different than if you live in the country and you come here, you still can't always take that country out of people.
No, you cannot.
You know, so if
speaking as a country girl.
But you know, the key that, you know, what a lot of people don't get is that you may be helping that individual, but everything starts at the foundation. Yes. And that foundation is at home, right? Mm-hmm. So I get it. I can understand that you were burnt out. And so now that you're burnt out, you dive into this world of business. What did you start with first before you started getting into it? I mean, you just kind of dive into just doing the TV show first, or did you do other things?
Well, the entrepreneurial world, I got into it through the recommendation of a friend, because I said, okay, this isn't working, because it takes my coworkers weeks what takes me days. I have more experience than they do. I have more education than they do, but I'm bored. Right. And idle hands are the devil's workshop. So we got to find something to do.
Oh my God.
So I had no idea what I wanted to do on the entrepreneurial side. But I began to talk to and interview friends of mine so that they would have video and content to put on their websites and to start their entrepreneurial endeavors. And just one by one, they all began to say, Nate, you're kind of good at this, or you ask me questions that nobody else has ever asked before, or I can really tell that you did your research.
Right.
And when people in the field said, you've got raw talent, I said,
It's like, wait a minute now, I got what? Woo, and that's something that everybody has. They think they have it.
I said, okay, so let's continue to follow this. And I started out on Periscope. Okay. And then I went from Periscope. I did a couple of Skype interviews. From there, I said, okay, if this is television exposure, what is the most realist you can assimilate? And I found, a local television studio that would let me record content and then actually air it on a live TV station here in the DMV area. Wow. And it's all very reasonable. They have classes there. It's too good to be true, really.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, the production that I've seen, I was just flabbergasted. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is really real. It's funny how you can see TV and you're thinking, it can't be that big of a deal. But then when I got there, I mean, it was like, she's like, get that light right. That light was a shadow. I'm like, where is the shadow at? I'm looking at all these things. I'm listening and I'm learning. And there's always people running around. And the next thing I was waiting for really was somebody gonna come out and do my makeup. Okay. I was like, oh my gosh, because it was so, it was just so amazing to see the process. And I guess that's the things that I talk about, what people not understanding, how what we do in the background, all they see is the good stuff.
Right, right.
Opportunity to really talk and convey about the things that you do. I think it was just amazing to see you go through that. So, here you are, you found out you've got this amazing thing going on with yourself, and now you're in the studio and now you're making things happen. So talk a little bit about the show, and then after that, we're gonna talk a little bit and get into that book.
Well, That Anita Live is a television show in the DMV where I showcase and spotlight women that have been through devastating circumstances to talk about the tips and techniques that they use to rise and live a relentless life again. How did they find their identity and their independence after going through such traumatic experiences as rape, molestation, domestic violence? And people think about that and they think, oh, nobody wants to hear that, because they're thinking about, crime ID shows or somebody, we don't speak about it or talk about it from a negative perspective, because we're on the healing side. So we talk about what you can do to get out of those situations, because somebody could have went through a domestic violence incident 20 years ago, but they're still living within that stuck place and that emotional baggage. And let's not talk about childhood trauma.
Right.
Whether it was teasing or bullying or being battered by a sibling, people grow up and still continue to live in those iron cages or under that emotional baggage. Well, when you listen to my shows, you listen to women that are telling you, this is how I got out, and these are the things that you can do to get out. Simple things, journaling. I also spotlight different therapists here in the DMV, so that you get a chance to view the therapist and their mannerisms, the way they talk, and they talk about how they deal with their patients, so that you can get people can get an idea on whether or not they would like to work with that therapist.
Right.
Because it's not difficult.
Right.
You can't always go to your good girlfriend with your deepest issues and problems.
That's right.
Because we gonna hold on to it when you try to go back.
Exactly. And you're right. And I like that piece that you were talking about with the therapist, because I love the fact that you're giving people an opportunity to kind of interview them.
Yes.
Seeing who they really are and if that's a good fit for them personally, because you're right. You cannot always take your deepest personal information and share it with others, because then it doesn't become about you. It's about their opinion. And so it's always great to have somebody who doesn't know you and they really are truly looking at the aspect of what is best for you to get you to the next level. So before we move on to the book, I just want to tell everybody, look, if you haven't chimed in, Source Nation, oh my goodness, this has been a phenomenal show so far. And we're going to talk a little bit more about Miss Anita and her new book that she has. So tell me the name of the book, and I know you got it, so let's see it and let's hear about how you decided to continue, doing what you're doing.
The name of the book is Family is Not Everything.
Okay.
Family is not everything. How to minimize their mess, maximize your happiness, and enjoy emotional baggage breakthroughs. Family is not everything. My little pride and joy.
Okay. All right. And I like that title, Family is Not Everything. So how did you come up with that title?
I want a family ain't everything, but my editor said, Nita, no. It needs to be grammatically correct. Well, and then because for me, one of the things that I talk about in the book is called family shaming. And I get so tired of people, whether it's an office setting or a social setting, family shaming other people. When they say, oh, no, I'm not going to go home for the holidays. I'm just going to spend the holidays alone. Oh, no, you have to go home. You have to see family for the holidays because they're trying to keep themselves comfortable. You don't know what you're sending that person back into. And so the saying out there is, if you don't have family, you don't have nothing. Okay, well, I come with the story that family is not everything. So let's talk about it from a different perspective.
I like that. And you're right. I think a lot of people put too much stress on, well, you got to be here, you got to do this, you got to do that, and it's funny, even, when I moved here, a lot of people don't understand that everything in the DMV area is not 2 minutes away. It's literally, you could be 10 miles, but it may take you 30, 40 minutes to get down 10 miles, so always that stress of, well, why haven't you seen the family, or why haven't you done this, why haven't look, I don't have time, and it's not as easy as people think, and so that stress of always somebody saying, hey, you need to please the family. Well, okay, really? And why is that such a big issue? I'm not saying that you shouldn't spend time with your family and your friends, but what about you? You
don't work to please the family. You need to work for your healthy place.
Exactly.
You need to work for your wellness.
Exactly. And that's the key. And so I love the title. When I seen it, I was like, oh, this is going to be a good one here.
Family is not everything.
And you're right. And I like that. But you also talk a little bit about the fact that, like you said, you're trying to teach people how to get to that healthy place.
Yes.
So give me a couple tips. And if there's a piece within your book that you may want to dwell on or talk a little bit about or read, you please do so.
Well, in the book specifically, I list a number of my own personal stories of childhood trauma. I also talk about one of the most embarrassing moments of my adulthood and where I made a life-altering mistake. But I link it back to the incidents that I went through in my childhood to show how, as a family, we need to work to take care of each other more. Right. And not just say, well, how your brother is, or that's just what your sister is like. Because it's creating a ripple effect of errors and problems in life. And where your childhood trauma becomes your adult dysfunctional behavior.
I agree. The way you said that was very simple, but you were absolutely right. And you can't blame, your family, because they're only going by the learned behaviors that they've given.
Right.
So as we all know, it's that continual
it's that pathology.
Yeah, constantly. And it does get old after a while. And that's nothing but a part of conformity. And that's with everything in life. You got to do it this way. You have to do it that way. And if you're not doing it a specific way, then there is a problem. There's always something going on. And then people are going to criticize you for not doing it the way that you've been taught this way. Yeah, that I've been taught that way, but that doesn't necessarily mean right?
Right. Because in the book specifically, I talk about sibling abuse, which doesn't get a lot of limelight. It's hidden under domestic violence, parental neglect, and then also talk about domestic violence, but from the angle of being a witness and not the victim. Because in one of the chapters, I talk about being hit, but not the target. Because I talk about how my brother was a batterer and how he would beat his wife. Those are things that I saw. Sometimes that behavior spilled over with the yelling and the screaming. I saw him push her down the stairs, and how that impacted me being a 10, 11, 12-year-old at the time. But how, one, I lost respect for my sibling. And then two, it really has an effect on how I view relationships today.
I agree with that.
Okay, because it's lifelong. It's a filter that you have to learn to work with.
Right.
And people say, well, you can overcome it. You can overcome its control on your life. But that filter, that view, is something that you're going to have to learn how to manage, because it's always going to be there. So you don't let it control your life. You don't let it speak for you. But know when it shows itself.
Right.
And from the parental neglect, it's from the aspect of, how the parents will see the discord between siblings, between their children.
Right.
And they'll say, oh, well, that's just how your sister is. Oh, well, that's just how your brother is. Whether it's
right.
Right. Okay, but when we look at it today, it is becoming criminal.
That's true.
Because siblings are beginning to end the lives of other siblings that are, and then when you dig through or you peel the onion back, you see, well, he's been picking on his brother for years. Or there's always been a problem in that family with violence. At what point do we begin to be honest within the family so that we can clean this up?
Exactly. Instead
of passing that pathology on through the generations.
Woo, boy, this is deep. Look, we could be on here forever talking about this. You're right. I mean, everything you're talking about, I'm sitting thinking in the back of my mind of all the things that we've seen growing up. And, we come from that era, time where everything was, you're a child, you stay in your child's place, you don't say anything, what is being done, you leave it alone. It's all consistent. Stay out of the way. We don't want to hear your opinion. And so you're right, you carry those things for years because that's how you were taught. And then, of course, as you become an adult now, either some people will change and grow from that, or then others won't. Like I said, the behavior actually becomes worse.
Right.
Seeing a lot of the family members killing each other and taking their children away. I mean, there's just so much craziness going on.
Yes.
Because they're dealing with things that they don't know how to handle, but they're taking it out on the people that they love and they're closest to them. So, I mean, like I said, we can talk down to a few more minutes. And the one thing I want you to tell people is exactly how we can get a hold of you, where we can find the book, and all this other great stuff that we have to talk about before we.
Well, let me also mention that while I give those personal stories, I also give one, the lessons to learn from the story.
Okay.
And two, I wrap it around my 7-step method to show how I was able to pull myself out from under that emotional baggage. So that they can use those steps also. That 7-step method that I talk about. This is actually my second book. The first one just talked about the steps, and it was only an ebook. Okay. My book, Family Is Not Everything, is available on Amazon, and it's an ebook and paperback.
Okay. And can they get autographed copies from you personally?
Sure. And I'm on almost all of the social media platforms. I'm on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And all my handles are the same, that Anita Live. So if you DM me, that Anita Live, we can work out you getting an autographed copy of Family Is Not Everything.
Hey, all right. And I know she's on Twitter, y'all, because she loves Twitter. Loves Twitter, okay? So yes. I know that the Twitter is working.
Twitter is home. Facebook is Grandma's house. Instagram is the high school reunion, but Twitter is home. Yes.
All righty. Well, it has been amazing to have you on the show. I know we still have a few more minutes, but I'm just sitting here like I said, we could probably talk further because there's so much information that you just put out in the last few minutes about the book and how it affects you personally and your family and all that. And that's the hard part, you know, that's the things that people don't want to deal with. So, and I like the fact that I obviously have ways to help people get through that process as well. So, you know, like I tell everybody, look, Miss Anita Washington is an author. She has a phenomenal TV show. You need to make sure you reach out to her, get her book, support her. We all need that support as authors. And I also would like to let everybody know, of course, you know, before I dive off of here, I got to do the sponsorship thing, and then of course tell you a little bit about how you can find me. But again, I want to thank you. It's been awesome to have you on. I know that time is ticking away, and if we get cut off, chime back in because it's crazy sometimes.
Thank you very much for sharing your platform with me.
Oh, absolutely. All right, Source Nation, I just want to again talk about the fact that we have author Anita Washington here. And like I said, she has a phenomenal new book. She's got a great TV show out. Please make sure that you come out and support her, help us out, you know, and learn something, because she has a lot of great information to share with you. And with your background, being a counselor and everything, hey, you are it. So like I said, thank you so much for coming on and telling your story, because it is a great story to tell. And like I said, I wish we had more time to dive into it a little bit deeper. As it goes, I've definitely, before we leave off of here, I have to thank our sponsors again: Zulina Health, Wellness, and Fitness, Meet My Types Matchmaking, Renovations, and New Covenant of Praise Worship Center. And then, of course, if you want to reach out to me, you can send any information. Of course, especially if you want to be on the show, please send your short bio, your book cover, and a professional picture to KimberlyMcLemore@gmail.com. That's Kimberly M, last name is McLemore@gmail.com. And also you can find me on all the social media platforms: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and go to my YouTube channel, which is on the Women's Small Business Initiative. This is where you will find this show and many other shows that I have done. And of course, you got to see this. So if you missed it tonight, make sure you come back and check us out. It has been a phenomenal evening. I really do, again, appreciate your time. Miss Anita, you are fabulous, and I hope to see you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you on a book signing. So again, thank you. For everyone else, enjoy the rest of your evening. Source Nation, we'll see you soon. Good night.